Hello and welcome to Altenew Educators Video Hop. My name is Aditi and here is a look at the cards that I will be featuring in today's video. Today it is all about background bonanza. Do like, share and subscribe each creator's video and check the description box below for the hop lineup. Enter the fabulous giveaway from Altenew to win some vouchers. In my video, we will be building our background patterns using better press plates as well as layered stamps. Now for the first card, I am going to be using the watercolor paper pad that is 100% cotton, and I have trimmed down one single sheet to create some A2 card size panels. I will be using the Wild Daisies press plate from Altenew along with the seashore ink sets. So that's Mountain Mist, Volcano Lake, Lagoon and Emerald for my card. So first up, I am going to use the Mountain Mist and the Volcano Lake, the lightest colors, to just ink blend on my panel. I am using the small blending tool and I have first added the lightest color, blend that well, and I'm going in with the Volcano Lake right at the bottom, blending that in and mostly darkening the edges. So I am doing that so that I have a nice white highlight right in the center. Now using my Better Press system, I am focusing on that guide for the A2 card and arranging my press plate onto that, and I will be using the emerald ink for my stamping. So first adhering my card panel on the flip plate, I am just using the yellow tape to get that done, and next just running across my emerald ink pad, dabbing that to make sure the press plate has ink. So running this through my die cut machine, here is a look at that impression. I simply love that bold emerald floral cluster. Now I want to add more of this on the top of the card. So I am just playing with the arrangement, checking where I want the floral clusters and aligning them at the top of the Better Press system and repeating the same process to get a nice impression. Now I do have a few empty spots and now I'm going to use my press plate as a stamp. So just holding that in place, I am making sure I put it on the magnetic base right where I want that, going in with the same emerald ink. This time I am going to put back the flip plate and just press at the area where I know I want that stamp impression. And that way I am just filling in a few corners of the card. Now for more detail, I am using some watercolor brush markers from Winter Wonderland set. Again, Mountain Mist, and I'm just going in on all the petals, adding a little shading with that same color. This just creates a nice textured look. I am then using emerald and just diluting that further with water and splattering that with my paintbrush. I am also going to splatter some white acrylic ink right at this stage so that it can all take a little while to settle in and sink in my paper. Now again, I am just brushing the emerald watercolor marker on my acrylic block and using a dry paintbrush to pick that ink and flick that on the petals for a dry on dry effect. So basically what this does is gives me shading for the petals just using that darker emerald color, and since I have not added any water, it's not going to get diluted or seep in, but stays as these flicks or strokes that create a greater interest and texture on my petals. So I am going to repeat that process on all the petals of the flowers here, and this is just helping me with my tone on tone background idea. By that I mean we use the same color family to ink blend and then a darker color just to get our outlines for the floral clusters, and going in adding a little more texture and highlight, and this background would be more than enough to create a focal point. So I am not going to be adding anything else this itself is going to be my card front. And that is what I love about using the press plates to create your own background or a pattern paper. Definitely you could add a contrasting focal element, but today my idea was to just use that, create a stunning background that works as the focal point as well. So the background works as a foreground and all it would need is a sentiment. So now that all the shading is complete and everything looks good, I am going to matte this. So I have gone ahead and slightly trimmed the sides just so I get a nice black matte, and I'm using an A2 size black cardstock here to create for a nice black matte, because that color from the black is just going to enhance and create another beautiful layer for our card. Now to complete it, I am using one of the sentiments from the uplifting sentiments. I'm using this set because it comes with these bigger sentiments, and on my scrap piece of paper I have just blended ink from the blending tool, not picked in more ink really, and stamped the sentiment, embossed it with embossing powder and die cut that to complete that card. Now onto my second card. I am using the Radiating Beauty Mini Delight stamp and die set along with my stamp wheel, and I am working with the Rock Collection inks Limestone and Silverstone for this particular background. I am stamping the base layer with the lighter color ink, and the stamp wheel comes handy. I can go over multiple times. Not just that, I can actually just flip and rotate the plate to create sort of a wreath. Here I'm not creating a wreath but a repetitive pattern for my background. So once I have the stamp down in place, all I'm doing is just flipping it by 90 degrees and stamping that, which gives me 4 florals for that starting layer. I then just lift up the stamp, place it in between the existing floral clusters, and set it in a way that if I pick it up and rotate the plate at 90 degrees or 180 degrees, I am able to cover 2 spots at one go with that same stamp set. So with that done, I have a partial floral cluster at the bottom, and then I have that same partial floral cluster stamped right at the top opposite that, as well as on the 2 sides where lesser of the petals are visible. I like doing this because it is creating a repetitive pattern, as well as with the overhangs and partial petals peeking through. It's creating an illusion of this being a continuous pattern, almost as if we have cut this bit out from a pattern paper, and that is what makes this technique for a great one to build your backgrounds. Now using the detail layer, I am just aligning it with one of the base layers and repeating the same process with the darker ink, which is Silverstone here, stamping the detail layer on all the floral clusters, the 4 right in the center, as well as all of them along the border, which are partial with just parts of the flower petals visible. Yet with that detail layer, we are adding that tiny bit of an element and shading on them as well. The stamp wheel therefore just makes this whole process so much more simpler and easier without having to do any math or alignment. I have just winged this. I have not really done any pre-measurements, just placed it there, flipped, and gone ahead and completed that. Now for the flower centers, I'm bringing back the Mountain Mist and Volcano Lake. And for my focal flowers, I am going to bring back those colors as well. So I am stamping the base layer and the detail layer onto another scrap piece of cardstock, and I'm switching inks. I'm using Mountain Mist and Volcano Lake on 2 of the floral clusters, and then Volcano Lake and Lagoon on one of the flowers, simply because I want that to be a little varied and darker. For the leaves, I am sticking to the grays. So all my bright color for this particular card is going to come on the 3 flowers that I've stamped. along with the flower centers, just tying it in with the background. Now matting all of this on a piece of Lagoon cardstock. By Lagoon I mean I have just ink blended Lagoon on a piece of cardstock, and I am using that as a mat to bring that color and tie it all in together. Now for my composition, I am just laying the flowers down in place using foam tape only on one of the flower, and I have repeated the same process using the same sentiment set for the sentiment of this card like I did for the previous card. I have used foam tape on the sentiment, and on some of the leaves I am using foam tape, while on others I'm just adhering them right flat, tucking them underneath the flower. Completing that card with white splatter, and here is a closer look at both these cards. Two different techniques to build backgrounds, a similar color palette, yet two different stunning results. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's video, and like I mentioned, do check the description box below for all the hop details. Until the next time, take care and bye bye.